Hi, I'm Wayne Gluf. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite to this amazing facility. It's been a privilege of mine to be friends with Dr. Ziegler for many years. So basically, I went to the Naval Academy. I graduated in Annapolis 40 years ago, and you weren't allowed to go to medical school then. So I was on a ship for 3 years. Then I spent 8 years as a special operations officer in the Navy. Did a lot of fun stuff, blow stuff up, jump out of planes, diving. And then went to medical school after 11 years. I was a little older. And then I went through the Navy, put me through med school, Uniformed Services University in Bethesda. Then I did my residency and fellowship in University of Utah, where my mentor, Ron Affelbaum, is a lifelong friend of mine. And Dr. Ziegler taught me early on. I was an early adapter in the military of arthroplasty, so I was doing some of the first ones in the country because we were getting approval. I was the approving authority. I didn't have to have an insurance company say no to me. I said yes or no. So it makes it a little easier that way, of course. So first, my financial disclosure. I don't have any financial disclosures. Pragmatic disclosure, however. So before you start saying, man, what an amazing guy. He just practiced in the military all these years, made no money. It's not quite that simple. I mean, and I'm not quite that good of a person, I guess, because I went to Uniformed Services, so you have a 7-year obligation when you're done, exclusive of time in residency fellowship. So you're looking at, for me as a neurosurgeon, at least 14 years. So again, it wasn't that I just signed up. I did have a partner who was at UCSF, the head of neurosurgery at San Francisco General. Gulf War broke out, and after 9/11, he signed up, left his practice at UC San Francisco and joined the Navy. Came down to Naval Hospital, is a lifelong friend of mine now. So again, I went to Uniformed Services. I did my internship at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. I started my residency at Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. back then, and the Navy actually pulled us out of there, sent us to any program in the country, and I went to Utah, and it was an amazing, life-changing, and certainly career, professional-changing experience. Did my spine fellowship, which was a neuro-ortho fellowship combined, 6 months on each in 3-month blocks. At Utah, I worked with Darryl Brodkey, a great guy who was from here, University of Washington, Andrew Daly, University of Washington. Great experience, and that really set me up for my practice in the Navy. So something to say, the military system is not the VA system. They're really different, and that's an important thing. So we took care of active duty patients, their families, and retirees. So you see the whole gamut, which is something I really loved. For neurosurgery, there's only 4 places in the country, or in the world, I should say, you go: San Diego, Bethesda, Portsmouth, Virginia, or Okinawa, Japan. So that's about it for neurosurgery. This is neurosurgery residency in the military. No, that's really not true. So you get to take care of some amazing people. This is a Marine recruit getting schooled on something he did wrong there, it looks like. So my Navy so I was in the Navy from 1978, before a lot of people were born probably that are attending the course, up until January 1st of 2011. And the first 4 years at the Naval Academy, I spent from 04 to 11 at the Naval Hospital, where I was the chairman of neurosurgery. So talk a little bit about that military practice. It was phenomenal practice, and the pros vastly outweigh any cons. Incredible patient population who you're taking care of. Early on, I got to Balboa. I was taking care of a gentleman who jumped into Normandy on the night of June the 5th, 1944, fought the Battle of the Bulge. You meet patients that you don't see all the time in your other practice. And also, I've had every type of practice. So after my military practice, 3 years in private practice, and then academics after that, which I love as well. So in the military, you're really a true general neurosurgeon. My hospital, we did over 400 deliveries a year. We had a large Marine population there, so there's a huge number of children being born, it seems, there in San Diego. We did tumors, pediatric myelomeningocele, you name it, we did it. Vascular neurosurgery, which a lot of people don't do, a lot of brain tumors, and then tremendous amount of spine, so 80+% spine, young, very active military population. You're seeing doing a lot of spine, and you see a lot of stenosis on the elderly patients. And on pediatrics, we would see some complex spinal situations too. I have a particular interest / expertise in OC1, C2 surgery from my mentor, Ron Affelbaum at Utah. To me, I mean, it's a true privilege to serve your country and take care of these men and women who are serving their country and really going in harm's way because our country said they need to go. So you have to understand that too. You know, these people who go over to fight these wars, they're not robots. They're mothers and fathers and sons and daughters, brothers and sisters. So you're taking care of some amazing people who don't ask, why me, why now, why over there? They just go. So you take a tremendous amount of pride, in my opinion, in practicing there. Your colleagues, I would argue, I've had great colleagues in all my different practices, but none like I've had in the military. You're all in it together. You're not making much money, and everyone's in it for the right reason, and that's first and foremost. It's really a true partnership. We went to ball games together. We did a lot together. Our families got together all the time. I found when I went to private practice especially, and was just my experience I can only speak to, it wasn't quite so collegial in the sense that time is money, and I'd love to sit and talk to you, but hey, man, I've got something else I need to be doing. And that just wasn't as rewarding in that aspect for me and me alone. My military practice, by far the most fun I've had. I keep in touch with people that I've worked with to this day from many years back. RVU is not a factor in your practice or your promotion. And I have that in bold because I have a saying, you know, Jack just spoke a little bit about what you can do and how you decide to set up your practice. You want to be super busy, you can make a ton of money. I will tell you, and I speak from experience after I left the military, if you do something for the money, you will earn every penny of it. Believe me. So if you just do the right thing, I stopped caring about RVUs, and that's just my philosophy that I had. I went to a hospital. If they said your RVUs are not as high as X, I'll say I do the right thing, the best thing for every single patient. The RVUs will fall out where they do. That's always been my personal philosophy. And you go home, you look yourself in the mirror, knowing you're doing what's best. And that's the way to practice medicine, in my opinion. You'll make good money, unless you're in the military, perhaps. But the money has changed even since my time when I was back in the day. Do the right thing, and the money will take care of itself. This can be good or bad, I suppose. You know, early leadership experience. I became chairman of neurosurgery 10 months after I finished my fellowship. So it can be a little intimidating in that regard. I was not board certified yet. In neurosurgery, it takes a few years to get your board certification. So here you are as a chairman, and people look at you as a chairman like you're all-knowing, but you're not like the chairman of some academic big medical center, gray-haired man or woman who has a lot of miles on the road. And that can be a little intimidating. We did a daily peer review. I set my practice up, our practice that we had every morning. We met at 6:40 in the morning. All the neurosurgeons, we had one intern assigned, and he or she would present the service to us. We'd go over all the new patients, and we'd review every patient every day. So the patients got a good multiple eyes looking at everybody. We double scrubbed the big surgeries. We didn't have residents or fellows, so we would double scrub cases, and we all benefited from that. I tried to make it as much academic as possible as well. We had M&M and Journal Club, a complex case conference, and we ran a program for the residents of UCSD. We did mock oral boards, a monthly conference, difficult case conference. They loved it, we loved it. It kept our hand in the game. We love to do the teaching. And the camaraderie is second to none, I will tell you, in military medicine. Just my experience across the board, and I have lifelong friends to prove that. As far as cons go, the pay is not there. I'm just going to be honest with you. Frankly, it can be difficult to live in San Diego, San Francisco, Honolulu, Seattle on military pay. Basically, paycheck to paycheck. My wife is retired military also, and then a school teacher. She was teaching in a private Catholic school, making a whopping $39,000 a year. So between the two of us, it was not easy to afford a home in San Diego, to be frank with you. There's not a lot of gray-haired partners or bald partners. One of the reasons I got out, as you can see, I wanted to let my hair grow. That's what I've done since I got out. But so you don't have a lot of these real experienced people. So like one thing I did, I kept in close touch with my mentors from Utah. And they are all too happy. You send them cases, you give them a call, and they help you out. Now I'm the guy. So I'm back full circle. I'm helping out at the Naval Hospital, San Diego again. I'm doing it for free, helping these guys out. I go and do cases with them, review cases with them. I do a lot of neurosurgery oral board. I run a whole program for my former residents. You can be deployed on short notice. So you can be sent over to combat theater. For me, that is a pro. Some people don't like that idea, especially if you have young kids at home. Downside, you can get a set of orders, and they send you from San Diego to Okinawa, to Bethesda, to Virginia. And it's not a negotiable thing. You don't call and say, hey, I don't want to go there. They're called orders for a reason. So that is one negative as well. Administrative support, I'd be in my office in clinic. A patient would say, hey, I need a letter for this. I'd say, okay. I'd start typing away. You don't have the administrative support. I didn't have a secretary. You don't have any of that. So you do it all yourself. And there were times before 9/11, before the wars, money was really tight. Every case I had to get approved. I had to go up to my boss to get hardware approval, and you're like, this is crazy. After the war, money started to flow quite freely, especially after some of the issues that happened at Walter Reed with the barracks and whatnot, money. And the military solution was to just throw a lot of money at things, and they're not always the best stewards, perhaps, but we were able to take care of everyone, every patient. And again, it gives you unbelievable preparation. One of my close friends is a minimally invasive expert at the Barrow Neurologic Institute in Phoenix. He just wrote a tremendous book, sole author of the book, Lou Tumialan, his name is. He's a rock star in neurosurgery. And he cites in the book, he liked to thank basically how we ran the practice when he was one of my junior partners with the peer review, the mentorship, and double scrubbing cases. So it really sets you up for success long term. We did some publishing. So I started working with, we started doing the artificial disc, but no one was able to do them. So what happened, we started doing them very selectively. Navy SEALs, Army Special Forces, Marine recon type people. And we were doing them, and they were doing really well. I will admit freely I was very biased in my selection. If you were in my office, I had any sense that, no thanks. I would do them on these people who you could probably put rocks in there and they're going to do great, right? These special forces guys. The hardest part, getting them to come back and see you in follow-up. I'd ask someone, hey, have you seen so-and-so? They'd say, yeah, he's in Afghanistan or Iraq again, So you don't get the follow-up. The people, you take care of them, and they're just itching to get back to work. And that's not always the case outside the military, you'll find. Again, I was the approving authority. I got involved in AANS, the big neurosurgery conferences, AANS and CNS speaking on this. And what happened was we were doing these things, and civilian spine surgeons said, you guys got to publish what you're doing with these special forces guys, what you let them do after surgery. They were back in combat, jumping out of planes, diving, so we published our data to really help them get approval through insurance after that, to show these patients can do very well. So this was our paper, one of the papers. We published quite a bit, actually, and this was an algorithm that I wrote to get patients back to duty. I think now they're getting them back. We're actually doing better and faster, but this is the initial thing that they were using to help them with insurance for my civilian colleagues. So you have young men and women, you have an intern on your service, and you're just great people, young hospital corpsmen or medics you're working with, and it's just motivating to come to work every day. And then their motivation is contagious, just like your motivation has to be contagious to them. And it's a good leadership experience. So these are some of the things you get to do as a military neurosurgeon. You get to do fun things. These are some Medal of Honor winners you see here. You get to take care of people like this. And then this is me and 3 of my partners. They let us borrow the Blue Angel jets to fly one day after. No, they didn't do that. But you do get to take care of people who do fly fighter jets like this and do all these cool things like the SEALs and the Marines and everyone else. So my practice was a privilege. The pros vastly outweighed the cons. Be happy to speak to anybody about it. There is a recruiter outside that I brought with me to sign you guys up. But, and I did do academics and private practice too, so I have a good frame of reference. If anyone has any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them either now or after. Thank you very much.